This is the Metro Council's Government Operations and Regulation meeting. I am detecting a quorum. I'll just go real quick through the roll. Myself, Council Members Benton, Ellis, Eastlick, Hancock, Nash, and Weiner. That's 7 present. We have 2 short items on the agenda. No one has signed up for public comment. After we go through the 2 items on the agenda, I've got Ms. Erin Williams here from Hub Nashville. Councilmember Ellis reached out to me after I put out the call for departments to come talk to us, wanting to hear a little bit from Hub Nashville, so that will be at the end of the agenda. All right. Resolutions. I've got RS 2024-209, Porterfield and Bradford. This accepts the term of Cooperative Purchasing Master Agreement for video cameras and controllers for the Information Technology Services Department. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
All right, I see Councilmember Webb has joined us. All right, is there any questions or discussions on this one? Would IT like to speak on it real quick?
Sure. Chris Singleton, Metro Nashville Network, Division of ITS. We're just going to replace the 4 cameras in here. Next year, we're planning on changing the one at Sunny West. And so when we pull these things down, they went in 2015, so they're due to be replaced. We're starting to see some signal degradation. So trying to get it replaced.
Seems pretty simple, straightforward. Any other questions or discussion on this?
Police department won't have any access to them. Just kidding.
All right. All those in favor of the long overdue update of our cameras?
Aye.
All right. Any against? That's 8 in favor. Against. And then lastly, we've got RS 2024-234, Horton, Evans, Segal, Parker, and others. This requests the Metro Planning Department and Metro Department of Codes and Building Safety to create a pattern book for medium-density housing, as further described herein. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second? Point of order, am I allowed the second? Am I allowed the second motion?
Yeah, you can.
All right, then we are seconded. Any discussion on this before I'll hand it over to the sponsor? Or do you want, or we can go ahead and have the sponsor talk first?
No good.
Councilmember.
Just to confirm before he gets started, is he supposed to be at the table?
It's
Because we
fine.
may have one more person that comes in, and I want the full committee to be here.
Oh, I'm happy to move if somebody else comes in.
Yeah,
We can pull another chair.
you're welcome to stay here until
I
someone
can
else
also
shows up.
slide around. Yeah, okay. We can squeeze together.
Go ahead.
So what this is, it's a non-binding resolution requesting codes and planning come up with what's called the pre-approved pattern book. What this does is ask them to create like a catalog basically of designs and layouts for missing middle housing. The point of this is twofold. First, it gives eases the development path for especially less sophisticated or less well-resourced developers. Where if they want to build one of these designs, they can basically take it off the shelf from planning or codes and be confident that this will get approved by them. It also provides greater certainty for residents. So if they're considering a rezoning that would permit something like this, they can be confident with the kind of design or appearance of what they're approving would look like. This is a tool that's been used in a number of other cities, from Oklahoma to North Dakota to North Carolina. And in other cities, it's been successful and sometimes in bringing the permitting process down from, in a lot of cases, several months to just less than 48 hours in some other cities. So that's the purpose of it. It's a non-binding resolution. It gives them until July of next year, or request that they finish it by July of next year. Spoken about it with both codes and planning, neither of which have any objections or concerns.
I will say, it sounds like that the focus would be something beneficial for especially our groups, nonprofits that are going for Barnes housing. It saves them some money because they can just go straight to that catalog and pull off pre-approved housing. All right, do we have any questions from the body? Councilmember Hancock?
Thank you very much, Councilmember, for going to planning first and getting their input. I know that they really appreciate that. What is the definition of medium-density housing, if you don't mind?
It's included in the resolution. It's normally something between a single-family home, more dense than a single-family home, but less dense than 12 units per lot.
Does any differentiation between sizes of lots?
No. And again, this doesn't mandate that people use what's in the catalog. It's just an option that developers can choose from if they'd like to.
Right. Thank you.
So, medium density says that infill developments will help improve housing affordability in Nashville by using established neighborhoods, unused infills in already established neighborhoods. So if they okay this, then we skip all the current process of going through the council member, which he's answering to his constituents, correct? So it would just be a,
This doesn't rezone anything, so this is just, if something is zoned that would permit this just provides design certainty around what the council, or what the developer could choose, where the zoning already permits it. It doesn't force or rezone anything,
Just cut red tape.
that's exactly right, yeah.
All right, Aiden, Councilmember Williams.
So this is specific to medium-density housing. Is there any issue, and I guess I need to ask Metro Legal this, is there any issue that we are cherry-picking a particular zoning density and it's not being applied across the board to different types of housing? And it's focused on one individual?
Not for the purposes of this resolution. This is a non-binding resolution requesting that a pattern book be created. It doesn't mandate that the pattern book be used by anyone. It's optional for developers to use.
Have we asked planning what the cost of that is going to be? If it's something that's optional and people can decide, well, I may use it, I may not use it, and then we invest all this money in putting it together and it's sitting on a shelf?
Is the concern that it would cost planning a lot to create it, or that they would do it and it wouldn't be used?
Well, pretty much both. From a
So
fiscal
my
perspective, I want
conversations
to know how
with
much it's
planning
going
is
to
that
cost.
My conversations with planning understand that they already have a lot of materials on hand that could be used towards this. As far as whether it would or wouldn't be used, in other jurisdictions where such pattern books are available, they are heavily used. My conversations with developers have said, I would love to build missing middle housing, but it's not as profitable for me to build a small scale development, and when I bring it to codes, I have no certainty that would ever get through. So they incur a lot of cost to go through a convoluted process, at the end of which there's no guarantee that it'll actually be approved. What this does is provide some certainty to them for these kind of less profitable housing types that are missing in the city.
If we don't end up with medium density housing in the code, what does that do to your resolution?
So there are medium density spots currently in the city, and so this resolution can stand on its own, whether or not we pass any other aspect of zoning reform.
so what protects the surrounding area, the surrounding neighborhood from something that they don't like, but because we got the medium density code that allows something like that, and you,
Yeah, so again, this doesn't actually rezone anything, so if your district or your neighborhood doesn't want high density, medium density housing in their neighborhood, you're free to not zone it that way.
so
This doesn't require.
this wouldn't apply to any of the RS.
I don't think this would fit an RS, no. I mean, the ultimate pattern book would be created by planning, so the ultimate shape of it would be determined by them.
And regardless, since this is a resolution, we would have to pass something
Yes,
in council,
that's correct, yeah, this evening.
but
This evening, that's correct. It's
I
on-
believe
it's
he's
on-
asking
No, I
if
mean,
this
after-
passed, like in future, if someone wants to do infill housing, that'd still go through the traditional zoning
That's correct,
legislative path.
then it would be an infill request.
Yeah, so if somebody wanted, if you have something that's zoned, say R6, like a lot of my neighborhood is, if you wanted to say make it RM20, they would still have to go to you, they'd still have to go to the council, they'd have to go through the planning commission, all of that stays the same.
Well, I wanna make sure if it's RS zoned and they're gonna build something that's compatible with RS, they're not coming to council anyway. They're just building it, that's.
Oh, if it's already, and they're
Yeah,
not taking a rezoning, that's,
So, I remember the old days when 84 Lumber was here, and they used to have all these housing patterns and garage patterns that I used for a couple of projects. It doesn't seem to be any harm in this particular deal. I tend to think there's a lot of stuff online already, but if planning doesn't mind, and it doesn't seem like it's done any harm.
And that's one reason I decided to sign on to this, because I was, that train of thought too is, especially our developers who are working for affordable housing and nonprofits that may not have the money or the funds to pay all these different fees associated, there's already something that they can pick that they know will be approved by planning and the codes. I think it's gonna make the process easier and help bring on more affordable housing quicker through this process. And again, it's not rezoning anything, it's just asking for a book to be created for our development community to use or not use, up to them. Yes.
So, I'm not sure what the proper terminology is, but if I wanna make a motion just to vote on removing this completely, from our agenda, what is that motion called?
Legal? That would just be simply voting
There's
against
no
it.
motion to remove it from the agenda. It's on the agenda.
So I
It'll
would just
be-
defer it indefinitely, or defer
That
it?
is, that's a possible motion that could be made, or you could vote against it.
Okay, so I wanna make a motion to defer, because, going back and possibly reinstating anything World War II is quite disgusting for me. So I make a motion to defer it
Defer one meeting indefinitely, 2 meetings?
indefinitely.
All right, we have a motion to defer indefinitely. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to defer indefinitely. Those in favor of deferring indefinitely, say aye. Oh, do you have a question?
No, I don't.
Okay, all right, sorry. Those in favor of indefinite deferrals, please say aye or raise your hand, sorry. 1, 2. 2 in favor, or,
When you say indefinitely, like, I mean, I have a lot more questions on all of them. And being a builder, you know, I wanna do,
So the point of me making the motion to
Okay.
defer is that I'm a first year, this is my first, year being a council member.
Again,
I
point
was
of
just,
order.
I'm sorry, I'm adding to the discussion. Is that
Right,
not
but
allowed?
we're not on the
We're in the middle
discussion,
of a
we're in the
vote.
middle of the vote.
yeah, we're in the middle of the vote.
so that's really my fault.
So you didn't recognize her?
Did you recognize me? No, I don't know.
If I did, it was by accident, sorry. All right, so we have 2 in favor of the indefinite deferral. Those against, please raise your hand. All right, 6 against. The motion to defer indefinitely fails. We're back to a motion to approve. All those in favor of approving, raise your hand. Oh, sorry,
Before we vote,
go ahead.
would you mind a friendly amendment that stipulates that we don't move forward with this until we have a price and can make sure it fits within the budget? How do we,
Is there anyone from plan?
I wanna make sure that this fits into their budget and that it's been considered.
Late amendment?
It's gonna be a late filed amendment, isn't it?
Or
It'll be
or
a-
defer for one meeting.
It'll be a late filed,
Okay,
it'll
then
be a
can
late
we
filed.
defer it for one meeting and then put it in for that, just to get the fiscal note in there?
Is it a request if they need additional money, or?
Yeah,
I
well,
think
it's
the
not.
question is, they just, Councilmember Winter just wants to kind of know upfront how much it might cost to put this together.
Wait,
before she
but when
goes
you're
on.
talking about cost, you gotta be all inclusive with the dollar amount, but then also the time capacity of planning.
Right, that's fine.
All right.
So that's what I'm gonna suggest.
So it's just not a fiscal note.
Let's have conversation, but I'm gonna probably move to suggest that we defer at one meeting to get that parsed out. Because I support it, but I wanna make sure I know the cost.
Go right ahead, then you.
So this is a non-binding resolution, it's just a ask for the planning department to do this. I mean, what would you think about asking them to do it, and then if they need more money, we could provide it for them, and if they can't do it without more money, they're under no obligation to do so.
We don't have time for that.
Go ahead.
Who is going to come up with the scope of the houses and stuff? It's, you know, who's gonna draw them up? I mean, what are they gonna look like? Are they gonna be specific to certain areas?
So the who is codes and planning department, that's who will be creating the pre-approved plans. As far as what it will encompass, it requests that it include things such as design and floor plan and elevation and things like that. Planning would be free to tailor the designs and things like that to accommodate the variety and diversity of Nashville neighborhoods. So they'd be free to come up with designs accordingly as necessary to fit Nashville's different neighborhoods.
Is that your thing? Okay. Councilmember
Did we
Hancock.
have any feedback from codes about this?
We have codes here. I've discussed it. They didn't raise any objections. Well, if you,
Yeah, I'd like to know their,
No, so we've reviewed this. We've actually reviewed pattern books from other cities of similar size. I know Chattanooga actually has one. We've looked at Washington DC and a couple others. We're fine working with planning. They're going to be more on the design side. I will say our part of this will be more making sure that whatever they come up with as far as design of the structure fits within the IBC and the IRC. That way, when that plan comes forward, it goes through plan review and zoning review much more quickly for our zoning examiners.
Well, I do, agree with the fact that we need to cut some of the red tape with these developers. I have, some small independent developers in my district that it's taken them over a year to build a very small kind of prefab building, and it's a lot of frustration there. So I'm gonna support your resolution. Thank you for bringing it.
That's all your hand.
Yeah, can you give us a little background as to what a pattern book is and the reference to pre-World War II usage?
Yeah.
And how is that relevant?
Pre-World War II, I mean, that's just a useful time frame. That's something that this used to be when the United States was a much more urbanized city. With the suburban sprawl that's occurred after World War II, these things fell out of favor due to the types of houses people like to be in. So it's not like this was somehow tied to some pre-World War II era so much as that was just the type of housing people used to live in. These more medium density housings that people are living in again as people move back into cities. So it's become relevant again is the reason to go relevant for World War II.
So, but if you're making that as to your point of why it's useful now, in what way, when back pre-World War II, they had farms on large parcels that would fit, 12 units? So I just don't understand the correlation.
Yeah,
And not being able to discuss the resolution prior to it being added to the agenda is what gives me hesitation.
Go ahead.
Well, it was, I mean, the pre-World War II one is that a lot of Americans used to live in cities. After World War II, a lot of people moved to the suburbs. In recent decades, people have started moving back into cities, but have found that the types of houses that a lot of people used to live in, small-scale apartment buildings, are no longer available to the extent they once were. And so this just tries to ease the path for developers in creating those types of housing that people want.
I just wanna make sure we put it in layman terms and everybody understand. I'm a builder, I go and I buy a medium density lot. I can go and just pick out this plan out of this book and it's gonna cut my codes time in half, correct?
That's exactly
Okay,
correct.
that's all I needed to know.
Hopefully.
Hopefully
Without
that-
coming before council.
But it's already zoned that way. If it's
Yeah.
already, that's the key.
That's my question.
Yeah, but we're
Yeah.
not taking into consideration future residents. Like this is haphazard.
I think the opposite. This creates pre-approved ones that have already been vetted and described and cleared by codes and planning. So this is adding,
When was it cleared and approved by planning?
well, it will be if they create the pattern book according to this resolution.
Yeah, so at this point, you're trying to rush us through this resolution without allowing us time. I mean, my motion to defer indefinitely was denied, so can I make a motion to defer at least 2 meetings? To give me more
You do have
time,
the right
because
to-
less than 10 days is not enough time, because I'm not sure how often you come out, south of the airport, but this doesn't work out there.
So we have a motion on the floor for a 2-meeting deferral.
Yes.
Second.
I'll second it. Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
What'd you say?
All right, we'll do this by raise of hands. Those in favor of the 2-meeting deferral, raise your hand. 8, so that's 8 in favor, none against, none non-voting, so we have deferred 2 meetings. All right, so with that, our agenda has been completed. Do you have questions?
Can I say something?
Go right ahead.
I want you to know, as a builder, I think you're owned to something there to make the process going through codes a lot easier, but I just think people need to feel more comfortable with the concept
I would agree.
in the design. I think maybe, look up like what the designs are and how it's gonna fit into certain code in the areas, and I think you, in the cost, and I think I will support it 100%.
So before we move on to Ms. Williams, I want to be mindful of the time, just kind of maybe an informal ask for codes and planning, maybe legal to send that out to them. They can just kind of come up with a quick cost estimate for this. With that.
In both time and monetary.
Mr. Chairman, could we also get staff to send us a link to the Chattanooga book?
No, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's a good idea.
I like that.
All right, Ms. Williams, if you want to go ahead and give us a brief kind of rundown of Hub Nashville.
Sure, if everyone would like to get one of the sheets that I brought. This is just a real quick current state of Hub Nashville. And I know that some of y'all are super familiar and some of you are maybe not, so I'll try to be quick.
You did. I was about to just tell you, no judgment.
Thanks. So Hub Nashville is just your, our path for ease of access to Metro services and information. So you can reach us by calling 311 Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, or, after hours that will roll over to our Department of Emergency Communications folks that take those calls for us too. Or you can use the web or the app 24/7. And then we will route your service request to the
Madam
appropriate
Vice Chair, you can
department.
come right over here.
I know, right? You'll call me out.
Seats open.
Easiest way to get around.
Tanya, was that an extra copy right there? Okay.
Yes, would you like it? I'm sorry. Would you like an extra card?
I've got one over here. All right, go ahead.
At any point, y'all just holler and ask questions, because I don't know exactly what you're interested in, so I'm just going to generally talk. We have a contact center staff that are all DEC employees. There's 10 folks on the phones, one supervisor, and then there's another supervisor spot that we will be posting shortly. 2 Spanish speakers, 2 Kurdish speakers, and then we have hub support through our ITS department, and we have 2.5 to 3. We have 3 folks, and we get a big chunk of their time, but not all of their time, to support Hub Nashville, and then I'm in the mayor's office. We have integrations built out with NDOT, water services, stormwater, waste management, codes for property violations, and fire for life safety. And that means that we can connect with the city works. So there's no double work needed. They can, I'm sorry, yes ma'am.
Oh, I wanted her to finish her sentence, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine.
So I just wanted to ask, like the majority of hub requests that I put in is for codes violations and the litter pickup, and then as an aside, the snow removal thing, but we may not have time for that. But so when I put in a request for codes, and it gets sent to codes, I get a notification that it's closed. But then I have to go in and find the link or whatever platform it is to find out what the status of that code complaint is. So, like, why does that happen? Because that makes me believe that, it's been taken care of.
Right, codes links to e-permits because there's a lot of information in that system. You can
Okay.
see everything that has happened over whatever amount of time with that complaint or others that are connected to that. So that it should take you directly to that case.
Yes.
And not just
It does,
jumping
but I
around
get
e-permits.
sort of just flying through. I get an email that says it's closed. Is there some other
It should
wording
also
that
have
we
a
can see?
note in there, and we can certainly work with codes to get some more information in that closure note that they're sending you.
Yes.
So not
because
just the
I
link,
would-
but a
Right,
summary.
because I would like to then forward it on, because typically it's my constituent that sends it to me. And for me to report back, like I would have to either send them the link, in which some of them are 75 plus years old and don't trust links that come through in an email. So then I would have to PDF the actual page that I go to.
I'm happy to ask them to add more info there.
And then the other thing is with NDOT. So as I was saying, a big issue in my district is litter. So when I put in the litter request, same thing happens. And not to say, they are very quick to respond and they get out, within 2 to 3 days. But I then get a notification that says it's been resolved. But then there is a note from a fella from NDOT, Jerry Martin, and it says that it has been assigned to a route, right? But that still gives me, a heads up that says, oh, it's already been resolved. So my first instinct was wanting to, because I put in the request as I'm out, doing my routes in the neighborhood. And then by the time I get back to my computer and pull up my email a day or two later, I see, oh, it's resolved. And then my initial instinct is wanting to text my constituent back and say, oh, NDOT has it taken care of. But then to come to find out, they just added it to the list. So, so that's why I was just wanting to, as I'm new to the council,
Sure.
and so I'm just trying to understand how these systems work and some of the terminology, and those were the two things that I wanted to bring up. So I guess it's, yeah, so I guess it's more so just me understanding when we put in the request, like, I'm afraid to think that it's only you due to the weight of 400,000 people.
No, it is not me.
Okay, so how do you, when requests come in, what's your decision tree to send it out to the department?
So you can kind of see a little of this here.
Okay,
it
yeah, and
will
that's what
happen
Russ had given it
automatically.
to us, we just didn't get a chance to
Yeah,
see
sure.
it.
No, take your time, and he will, as Council Member Bradford will say, I'm coming back.
Okay.
So this is just a starter. We start you thinking about it, and we can certainly talk more about it. But when we send things over, or when we set up the request, we go ahead and set that routing ahead of time. So we
Okay.
build it out. I don't see it. If you submit something for codes, it goes to codes queue, and they manage that.
Is that best based on the subcategory that it's tagged to?
Well, and
Okay.
it varies. Like, there might be some requests that have a question inside that will drive it one way or another. Like, if you're turning
okay.
a pothole that's in an alley versus the roadway, it's just gonna be a question in there, but it's gonna drive it to different folks.
Got it.
So we try to
Okay.
be careful and work very slowly with departments to make sure we know where they need things routed, so that it hits the right queue and they can respond. But we can definitely work with them to try to get more info back to y'all. In terms of the NDOT litter, that's not the plan. So that's, if you send me one, send me an example, forward an email,
Yeah.
I'm happy to look see where in the process maybe you're pulling it too soon, or, the comment isn't in the right place, but we can,
Okay.
spot check those. Just send it on.
Thank you.
Sure.
Councilmember Hancock.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So I've been using this since it came out, and it's definitely improved a ton. And even in the last week and a half, I think I've gotten better responses to the closed things. The biggest challenge I have is with NES and parks. When I'm geolocating something, they don't seem to get the geolocation. So parks will email me back and say, well, where in the 700 acres is it? And I'm like, well, I geolocated it. There's not like an address in the middle of the park. And I do the same thing with NES at night with light poles. And they email me back and say that I need to go find the light pole. Well, like that was I don't remember what neighborhood I was in at the time that I saw a light out, but I did manage to stop and geolocate and report it. So I feel like we need to be better at sharing the geolocation with them, because one time I did in the dark drive along and stop and like run out in the dark and write down like 8 different light poles until my son was scared and told me this was not a safe thing to be doing.
Kids will save us.
Yeah, so I would just like to use that technology more.
Absolutely. We do share the geolocation. It's part of the request that they receive, but I don't know that everybody working requests would have a way to really use that or utilize that in a way, so I can work with.
If they have the World
Parks
Wide
and
Web, I
MES.
think they could.
I think our amazing IT director has some things to add to this conversation.
So I would just, to that point, so Parks is not on the CAL system at this point, and so they don't have an integration. So somebody is getting an email with that information,
They've licensed.
but they don't have CAL. And so CAL is the system it goes into, and they use the geolocation that is coming. And I'm actually meeting with Director Odom tomorrow morning, and so I'm happy to relay this information to her from this
Does
conversation.
NES have CAL?
Councilmember Webb had
That's all right. Okay. I know some of y'all are gonna find this funny, but before I started campaigning, I didn't even know what Hub Nashville was. I'm like, people's like, Hub Nashville?
Yeah, I have.
I'm like, what is Hub Nashville? So my thing would be, how can we educate? When you think about 50,000 downloads, app loads to our area people,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that still don't know this. So how can we, have y'all thought about a marketing campaign to get people more educated?
Well, I'll go and add real quick, one of the best little marketing campaigns is if you get your business cards, on the back of all of our business cards has the information about
Yeah.
Hub. So when you're giving out your business cards to folks,
Tell 'em.
you can, they'll have that information.
Yeah.
If your social media, your newsletters, I always put a plug at every newsletter about Hub Nashville. I've had, I think Aaron came out to one of my early town halls to give a training,
Happy to come out.
which a follow-up to that training is, yes, I'm looking at having a special call meeting with the next couple weeks of government ops, and want to invite the rest of the body, because we've not gotten a full, like a new member training on how to use Hub. And
Yes.
so, we're gonna have that special call meeting, or I wanna try and have it in the main chambers, so Aaron can kind of walk everybody through, how do you log in? How do you submit a request, et
About
cetera, et
2,000 options on there.
How do you download the app to your phone?
cetera.
To your point, yeah, I was just gonna say, the app was installed on my phone by somebody from IT, there's all the name in it, so it's been great. It saves me a lot of time, and we've got a lot of our neighbors educated our way about it, so.
To your question about marketing, we are grateful for the Department of Emergency Communication. They have given us, made some investment in that. So if you listen to the radio, you will hear plugs for Hub Nashville on
See a lot of
NPR.
billboards too.
You'll see it on billboards, so there's,
music
everywhere. So there's some effort, and then again, we're happy to come out to any community meeting.
Does Taylor Swift subscribe?
I would never tell. Actually, I would
Let's just get
search.
her to put it on her thing.
I was about to say, maybe she can do a PSA for us.
If y'all ask, I'm happy
All
to.
over the world.
I just have one more question.
One final question, and then we're gonna call, because I know there might be people going to, we have to be out of here before rules, so.
So I just wanted to follow up. Denton, Mr. Durbin,
Yes, sir.
so does NES, are they, because I haven't picked the right time of night or the right time of morning to go out and see what streetlights are out in my area to be able to report them. Is NES, like, will they know my location? Like, do they use the CAL? Or-
So they get tickets sent to them
Okay,
from the hub. However, they are not integrated with the CAL. However, the mayor's office had made that a point of conversation with NES leadership a couple of months ago. I have a meeting, is it next week or the week after, with the people they asked me to speak to about talking about an integration, and they're coming into CAL at some point in the future. So
Let's
there
just-
are conversations.
And plus, just roll on that, you know, NES is gonna be gradually phasing out the old lights and putting in the new LEDs, which are supposed to be connected to a central hub, so NES will be able to pull up a system like, this one's out, this one's out, this one's out.
Yeah, but I don't have to tell
So
them.
that was part of that bill we passed, so.
I haven't.
So I appreciate everybody's time. I thank you, Ms. Williams, for coming to talk to us. As soon as I get a date set for the special meeting, y'all will get it in your inbox. With that, we are adjourned.